Now before we begin creating our game, we will use the Sproutlands asset pack by Cutnoodle. You can find this on itch.io and I will leave this link in the description below. So once you've downloaded the asset pack, we will then unzip this pack and organise the assets into different folders and we'll rename them. And we will do this before we start creating any scenes for our game. Now let's hop over to Godot. Once the game engine loads, let's create a new project. And for this game, we will call it Crop Tales. And if you leave create folder checked, it will automatically create you the game folder in your project path. So feel free to set your preferred project path before setting up the project and game name. We will leave the renderer on forward plus, and for version control, we will just set this as none. However, if you do prefer to use Git and you do want to add this into your source control, then leave the version control metadata to Git and it will create you a git ignore file automatically in your game folder. Now let's select create and edit. Once the editor loads, you can see that you have your scene and import on the left hand side, your editor in the middle, and the inspector node and history on the right hand side, with the file system underneath scene and the ability to modify files underneath. However, in my tutorials, I have my own layout, so I can select this by using the editor layout option, and this is a layout which I have already created myself and I have saved, so you won't have this layout. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to just change to this, and you may wish to use the same layout, so just move the panels by changing the dock positions, and once you have the same layout as this, just go to editor and save the layout. You may wish to use the same layout as me so that it is easier to follow the tutorial steps as I'm moving files around, creating scenes, or changing variables in the inspector. As we are only creating a 2D top-down game, we don't need the 3D editor options. So to make the editor a little simpler and to remove this 3D option here, and also remove the 3D scene from here, we can say editor, manage editor features, and just turn off our 3D options. This is where you can turn features for the editor on and off. So we can just click this here. If we click OK, you can see that the 3D option has been removed here and we can't choose those 3D scenes. Our editor is now ready, so we can begin bringing over the assets from the Sproutlands asset pack. In the root folder, let's create a new folder and we will call this asset. Click OK. And we can then go inside this folder. In the Sproutlands asset pack, once you have unzipped this, you will get a characters folder, objects folder, and tilesets folder. What we will do is just highlight these folders and drag them into the assets folder. These assets will now be imported. I will now rename the folders and the file names so that we follow some good practices. I will make them lowercase and the spaces will be underscored. So I have now finished renaming the folders and all of the different assets. And it's always good to follow a naming convention. It keeps everything neater and also it is better organized as well. I will now create a new folder and call this game. And I'll just move these asset folders into there. And in future tutorials, we'll be adding more assets for the UI and also our sound effects and music files as well. Now this brings us to the end of this tutorial on how to set up the project and bring over the assets for the game. Come along to the next tutorial where we start to create our first tile map. So please hit like and subscribe to follow the rest of these tutorials. And thank you for watching.